There is around 20.9 million people that are living in slavery. Living in slavery could be classified as being forced to work through mental or physical threat, being owned or controlled by an employer, mainly through mental or physical abuse or threat of abuse, or being treated as a commodity or bought and sold as property.
Slavery has been around for centuries. Although now deemed illegal, many types of modern day slavery still exist in the world today, such as bonded labor, child slavery, descent based slavery, and human trafficking. Bonded labor is the most common form of slavery in the world. Most common in South Asia, laborers are forced to work in order to repay a debt or loan. This is also prevalent in India, where children are forced to repay their parents' debts by working in brick kilns. Children are also the most exploited group in slavery, suffering from child labor, child marriage, and child trafficking. According to the International Labor Organization, there are 8.4 million children in slavery around the world.
Trafficking is the trade in human beings, mostly for the purpose of sexual slavery, forced labor, or commercial sexual exploitation. Descent based slavery occurs in some countries at birth, passing through generations. Having a child inherited being a slave and thus growing up as a slave limits the potential of an individual. Now we go to Alex, who is on the scene in the Uzbekistan conflict.
Child slavery involves intolerable abuse such as child trafficking, forced labor, and illicit activities. Child laborers suffer extremely high illness and injury rates in underground mines, open cast mines, and quarries. So here, like a Soviet command economy, many teachers, students, and workers are forced to work in the fields to pick up cotton when they're out of work. This type of labor forces the young children to skip out on school, which prevents them from getting a good education. Children's futures are taken away and they are forced to do what their masters wish them to. Children are forced to work from a very young age in order to earn money for their family. Children start stealing and making other crimes for money. In turn, this affects the future's economy by creating a nation filled with rich slave owners and slaves living in poverty. Cruel and harsh, this type of living is normal in the eyes of a modern day slave.
So I'm here with John Drake, American civilian who had his life changed when he encountered a person who offered him to have sex with a 4-year-old girl for $20. After this experience, he decided to retire from his job and began to form the Lingap Children's Development Center. Here he brings in children from 6 to 18 years old from the central Philippines to protect them from physical abuse or the sex trade. So Mr. Drake, how does it feel to help these children who have been affected from these forms of slavery?
Well, it feels great to help the society, the Philippines, by rescuing these poor children who have suffered from this injustice, from the bitter hands of slavery. The things I have seen have really affected me on a personal level. One thing I realized from my experiences is that some people will stop at nothing to get what they want. I have seen a father douse his own child in gasoline and then proceed to light him on fire in order to use the child as a begging prop.
Now how does this child sex slavery affect the society of the Philippines?
Well, the people who run the child sex slavery business take these children from their parents and sell the children to random people. The children that are being sold form a large portion of the Philippine society. Therefore, the society suffers from the loss of children.
So what are the numbers of how many children that are kept as sex slaves in the Philippines?
The Filipino government estimates that there are around 100,000 children kept as sex slaves in the Philippines.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Drake, and thank you very much for informing us on the injustices of child slavery and how it affects the Philippines.